Lot to talk about, especially with that jobs report. And to help us break this down, we invite into the stream Joseph Minarik, the Conference Board's chief policy economist and former OMB chief economist under President Clinton. Joe, before we start talking about the numbers, want you to hear what Marty Walsh, the labor secretary, had to say when he was asked about this criticism that by paying people benefits, they are not going to look for jobs. Here's what he said.
We still have millions of Americans out of work. Those millions of Americans, many of them would prefer to be working in a job than collecting unemployment, because the unemployment is a short-term benefit that's going to run out, where these people would like to get back to their careers, get back to their jobs, find new opportunities, new careers. There's just too many people out of work to say that with. We don't have 8-9 million Americans saying, well, I'm going to collect unemployment, I don't want to go to work. That's just not the case.
Help us understand what he's saying, though, because if I'm an out-of-work person receiving benefits that keep me healthy and well, I have a longer period of time to maybe find an even better position. Isn't there some validity to that?
A lot of the people who are out of work, of course, came out of, for example, the hospitality sector. You look at the April employment situation report, and you see that the growth of employment in the hospitality sector exceeded the total. The rest of the economy employment actually shrank. So the folks who have been hit by the pandemic, who went on unemployment, for whom that additional benefit is a significant amount of money, are in fact going back to work in very large numbers. So there is the concern on the part of an unemployed individual that, this benefit is very nice. It keeps me well. And yes, I'll apply. But if I have a job, that is my lifeline going on into the future. I don't know how long the additional benefit for unemployment compensation is going to last. And again, as the secretary said, and I don't want to be on one partisan side or the other, but we lost a lot of jobs, and it wasn't because those people woke up overnight and said, I don't want to work anymore. It'd be really nice to be collecting unemployment compensation. There are a lot of human situations out there. There are people who worked in restaurants that are now closed. There are people who need to take care of their children because they can't get child care, not only because of expense, but also because there's still fear about the pandemic. We're in an extraordinary situation, and a lot of extraordinary things are going to be happening.
Joe, does this at all change your view just in terms of the timeline of the economic recovery? Do you think now it could potentially take longer than we initially thought, say, a month or two ago to recover from this?
I do believe that this number does suggest that growth is going to be somewhat slower. Recovery in the job market is going to be somewhat longer than we thought before. We have all of the issues of businesses that have closed their doors permanently. So folks can't just turn around and go back to work in the jobs they previously had. And for many of those folks who do not have highly marketable technical skills, looking at the availability of jobs that they can handle with their current training is going to be problematic. So we're probably looking at a period of time for the business sector to rebuild the damage that occurred in the pandemic, and for the folks who lost their jobs as a result to find ways to get back to work.
What's interesting, Joe, is that we saw in leisure and hospitality 331,000 jobs added. But then you go down. I'm looking at the report right now. Manufacturing actually fell in April, 18,000. And yet it's manufacturing which is part of this reopening of the economy story. Does this bode perhaps storm clouds for people in factories, that maybe those factories are figuring out they can be more efficient without bringing human beings back to the floor?
Well, factories and people who run factories are always going to be seeking greater efficiencies. That's how our economy remains competitive in the global marketplace. But that having been said, There's another phenomenon going on here. How important it is, time will tell. Is for people who had discretionary income and who went out to dinner and went to the movies and traveled, and all of a sudden lost those opportunities. Part of what they did was to recycle those dollars into stuff. And as a result of that, manufacturing has done pretty well. So there's another question of whether the manufacturing sector has had some extraordinary growth and is going to have to give some of that back as the service sector gets back to business slowly and not as quickly as we'd like, but over a period of time. So there's going to be a lot of recycling of demand in this economy as parts of the economy recover. And it's going to be bumpy and it's going to be curvy, and we're going to have to see where these twists in the road actually lead.
Hey, Joe, how are you looking at this just from the Fed's timeline? Any potential changes to their monetary policy? Has that changed? Have you changed your view at all on the timeline of that?
I believe the Fed is going to continue to be supportive of economic growth and of the economy for a while yet. We're still looking at, we're working that unemployment rate down very, very slowly. The Fed has said they are not going to start pressing on the brakes until they see the unemployment rate substantially reduced and they see some inflation in the economy. They've talked about a double test at this point. And as a result of that, the Fed does appear to be in a posture of supporting growth and supporting recovery in the labor market that does not appear to have changed at this point. And this employment situation report, if anything, suggests that they are going to continue to be supportive of growth and of the labor market for the foreseeable future.
It's always good to see you, Joe. Joseph Minarik is the Conference Board's chief policy economist, and he was also in the room where it happened when President Clinton sat at the Resolute desk. All the best.